Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Sunday to hopefully motivate you to cook more for your family. I have nearly 300 What's for Dinner videos down below in a playlist because I've been doing this for going on 6 years now. It's like 5.5 years. And that's a lot of What's for Dinner videos. So if you need some dinner inspiration, some new meal ideas, just some motivation to cook more for your family, make sure you subscribe down below, and you can also check out that playlist for even more ideas. I'm going to go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. First up, Friday night, we tried a new recipe for Korean beef made in the crock pot. I've made a Korean beef before, but it's like a stovetop with ground beef, and this one uses stew meat, so I was really excited to try it. So here in a measuring cup, I am first measuring out 3/4 of a cup of water, and then I added in some beef bouillon powder to make that into some beef broth, and then I added in 1/2 a cup of soy sauce, 1/3 a cup of brown sugar, some minced garlic. It said about 5 cloves. I think I did a little bit more than that. 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, about 2 tablespoons of some freshly grated ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a little bit of pepper, and then just whisk that all together. It did also call for some gochujang. I think that's how you say it, but I don't have that. I've seen it in the Asian market before, and I've seen it in other recipes, and I think I will be picking it up next time I am at the Asian market, because I know I can use it in this recipe. It tasted good without it, but I feel like it'll add some more flavor, and it'll be even better with it. So once I had that all whisked together, then I poured it over some stew meat that I had already placed into my crock pot. And then I just put a lid on this and I let it cook on low for about 6 hours. After cooking for 6 hours, my meat was done nice and tender, kind of like held its shape but shredded easily. And I just left it in like bigger chunks. And then you can add in some cornstarch mixed with water to thicken up the sauce. So I did that. I just stirred the cornstarch and water together and then added that to the crock pot and let it sit for about 5 minutes to thicken up. And then I served this over some white rice and with some air fried broccoli on the side. And it was delicious. Like, I don't even want to eat the one that's made with ground beef on the stovetop anymore. This one was so much better with the stew meat. I know it's a little bit more expensive versus ground beef, but it was very good, and I will definitely be making this again. Saturday, I made some pigs in a blanket and some Hashbrown casserole. So I started off by making the Hashbrown casserole because it takes the longest to bake. And I've got 2 pounds of hash browns here, and I like to let them thaw a little bit before making this, like 30 minutes to an hour, so that it's easier to mix together because it can be a workout to kind of mix together the frozen hash browns. So to that, I add 1/2 a cup of melted butter, 1 can of cream of chicken soup, 16 ounces of sour cream, and then I do some onion powder and salt and pepper and about 2 cups of cheddar cheese. And I mix that together as best as I can. I do reserve some of the cheese so that I can sprinkle that on top. And then I put it in a greased casserole dish and bake this in the oven on 375 for 45 minutes to an hour. Towards the end of that being done baking, I started working on my pigs in a blanket. I had these country style smoked sausages. They were like breakfast sausages, like smaller than a hot dog, bigger than like a little breakfast sausage link. Tasted like a big little smoky. So I decided to make some pigs in a blanket with them. I'm just taking them and putting like 1/2 of a slice of cheddar cheese on a crescent roll and then rolling it up. The package of sausage had 10 in it, and then crescent rolls only come in 8. So I did have to kind of like cut some of the crescent rolls to make sure that I had enough for all of my sausages. If you just bought like the crescent roll like dough sheet, then you could just cut it into like 10 strips and it'd be a lot easier. But I made it work and I got them all wrapped up, and then I baked these on 375 for 15 minutes. And here is how everything looked when it came out. The hash brown casserole was nice and bubbly. I usually let it sit for about 10 minutes before serving. And then I also made a can of green beans on the side to go with this. This was great. It was a pretty easy to put together dinner. We love hash brown casserole. I don't make it very often. Sometimes I'll make it with like a piece of like ham or something, but we always get it whenever we go to Cracker Barrel. It's a favorite. Sunday night we had tuna casserole. This is something that I've shown many times on my channel, so I will leave a video link down below for how I made it. And I always serve this with a can of peas on the side. That's how I always had it growing up. I know some people like to put peas inside of it, but we like the peas on the side. Monday night we just had chicken sandwiches and chips. This is the day that we spent at Stone Mountain all day, and then I took the kids to Sam's Club. And I was planning on getting a rotisserie chicken and having chicken sandwiches with that and on the croissants that I got at Sam's Club, but they didn't have any rotisserie chickens, and it was going to be like another 30 to 45 minutes until they were done, and we just couldn't like wait around. So instead we picked up the rotisserie seasoned like deli sliced chicken, and I was pleasantly surprised. I have never bought that before, and it was very good. So that is what we had for our sandwiches. Just chicken, a little bit of mayonnaise. I did some pepper on mine, and then the kids did some cheese on theirs, and then just like some Doritos on the side. Super simple after a long busy day. Tuesday night we had a chicken and rice casserole. So this is another recipe I was planning on using the rotisserie chicken for, but I always have canned chicken on hand just in case, and we really like this recipe with canned chicken anyway, so it worked out fine. I started off by heating about a tablespoon of olive oil up in my pan, and then once that was hot, I added in half of a diced onion, about 2 carrots diced, and 2 stalks of celery diced. And I just cooked that up like 5 to 10 minutes just until they started to get soft. Then I'm going to be adding in some water. I believe mine was 2 1/4 cups of water, but you're going to follow whatever your box of chicken flavored rice says. I'm adding in a box of the Aldi brand like chicken flavored rice-a-roni, and so whatever the water is on your box. It also calls for like butter or oil, but since I had already added some oil for the veggies, I just left that part out, added the water and the box of rice with the seasoning, and brought that to a boil. Once it came to a boil, I reduced the heat to a medium-low, put a lid on this, and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. I do just under what the box says. I think the box said like 18 to 20 minutes. I did 15 because we are going to be baking this in the oven, so we'll have a little bit more cook time. So after that 15 minutes, and then I stir in 1 can of cream of chicken soup, about a cup of sour cream, a little bit of salt and pepper. I did 2 cans of cooked chicken that I drained, and then you can stir that all around, get it nice and combined. And then I actually was making this in my oven safe skillet. If you're not using an oven safe skillet, you're going to want to transfer this to a casserole dish, and then you can top it with some cheddar cheese. And then I put this in the oven on 350 for 30 minutes. And here is what that looks like once it's done baking. I just serve this as is by itself. It's already got veggies and everything in it, so it's super filling and it's delicious. I've made this many times before. It's easy because you're just using box rice-a-roni, and if you've got like canned chicken on hand, it's pretty much like a pantry meal. You can leave out the veggies or use whatever you have on hand. The original recipe that I had like gotten this idea from didn't even use celery. They used green pepper, but I had celery on hand the first time I made it, so I just used that instead. And plus I think we'd like that better anyway. But really, use whatever veggies you have on hand. I've always got like onion, and I've usually got celery and carrot in my fridge too, so that's what I used. Wednesday night we had this one pot lasagna helper. It's like hamburger helper, but I made it homemade, and I actually shared this in a one pot meals video a couple weeks back, so I will leave that link down below for y'all. And I got a lot of questions about where I got the pasta from, because they're like literally mafalda pasta is like little tiny lasagna noodles. It looks just like lasagna, and the only place that I've seen it in store was Trader Joe's, but I'm sure if you look online you can find it other places. But really, if you can't find it, you could just break lasagna noodles or use some other kind of small pasta like penne or something, and it'll be just as good. And finally, the last meal of the week was some shrimp fried rice. I have shared this before, but I feel like it's been a little while since I actually shared my fried rice recipe, so I'm sharing it again. I started off by heating up a little bit of oil, and then once that was hot, I added in my shrimp, and then I had a little bit of this soyaki sauce from Trader Joe's left over, so I poured that in, seasoned the shrimp with some salt and pepper, and then made sure everything was coated with that, and then just spread it out in an even layer and let my shrimp cook. It doesn't take very long, just a couple minutes. Flip them over, let them cook on the other side just a couple minutes, and then remove them from the pan. And then I had some green onion. I just cut up the white parts and tossed those in the pan with a little bit more oil and cooked those for just a few minutes until they started to get a little bit soft. Then I added in my cold cooked white rice. I like to season that with a little bit of garlic powder. And then I add in some soy sauce, just kind of breaking up the rice and making sure it gets coated with everything. And then I also add in a little bit of hoisin sauce and a little bit of oyster sauce, more soy sauce to taste. I just kind of base it off of how it looks, and then I will taste it at some point too to make sure it tastes right. You don't want it to be too salty. If you're sensitive to salt, you could use like a low sodium soy sauce. But yeah, we like regular soy sauce. We always use Kikkoman regular soy sauce. And then I will push all of my rice to one side and add in some frozen mixed veggies. Drizzle on a little bit more soy sauce on those. And then I'll put a lid on this and kind of let those frozen veggies steam on the side for just 2 to 3 minutes. And then I will mix those in with the rice and then push everything to the side again. And I'm going to cook up about 4 eggs. Usually do 4 or 5 eggs, scramble them together with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I let those cook on that one side of the pan. I always like to cook my eggs kind of separately from the rice, because if you mix in the eggs too soon, then it all sticks to the rice, and I don't prefer that texture. So I liked my eggs to be mostly fully cooked before I mix them in. So once they're cooked, then you can mix them in. Taste it, see if you need to add any more seasoning, any more soy sauce or anything, and then you can just add back in your shrimp or whatever cooked meat you decided to do. Let it sit with the lid on it for 5 minutes to kind of warm back up that shrimp, and then it's ready to serve. I love making fried rice at home. It's pretty simple and easy and fast. It's really fast, especially if you're doing shrimp. It all cooks really fast, and we love it. So that was dinner for Thursday, and that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I hope that you got some new meal ideas. If you did, let me know which ones you plan on trying in the comments down below. I hope you'll have a great rest of your weekend and a great week, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.